So I'm gonna start with like a little mineral cleanser, just getting like the natural oils off the skin. I like to approach makeup like really like biologically. I like to think about how the skin works and the way that our body interacts with something that we're putting on top of it.
I'm sorry, what is on that?
So this is just like a little mineral cleanser. It's by Clinique. Bioderma also makes a great one.
Like a liquid mineral cleanser?
Yeah.
What about a toner?
That's more for like skincare. I would incorporate that into like my makeup application process. I would use that at the end of the day after taking the makeup off. Or in the morning, you know. Oh, you have such a cute face. Like I just look at her the whole day. So one thing that I think is really important is I want my clients to feel that I really have their best interest in mind. So I always ask my clients, as I'm starting their face, do you have any skin allergies? Do you put on moisturizer today? How has your skin been lately? Has it been oily? Has it been dry? Dryness is the enemy of makeup. Because if you have really dry skin and you put makeup on, it's not gonna look cute. It's really important to get a lot of hydration into the skin. And that's why I say, if you want like cheap skincare, you just gotta drink a lot of water. Like honestly, that will save you so much money. And clearly she's hydrated, because look at the skin. Yeah, I'm all about like prevention and trying to keep things feasible, because the cosmetics industries are just trying to like milk us, you know? They'll create every little thing, a new product, even though it's already been created. Rebranding. To keep things simple, it's easy with prevention. So low stress, drinking lots of water, that will keep your skin looking really cute for a long time. I always like to start with brows because I think that they frame the entire face. Different makeup artists have different opinions about this. Some people like to do the skin first, some people like to do the eyes like themselves first. I like to do the brows because then I can see exactly how much space I have to work right here for the eyes. And following that progression, I like to get the eyes out of the way because inevitably there's fallout, something from mascara or shadow or glitter that can fall onto the face. And if I get that out of the way at the beginning, I can just go in with a makeup wipe, clear it all up, it looks really cute, then I can take care of the skin. If I had a client that was really not concerned about an eye look, you know, it's just like, okay, we're doing clean skin today, I wouldn't do it in that order. I would just do the skin. Skin looks good, we're good to go. So I'm gonna take a little brow pencil. This is by Anastasia Beverly Hills. Najad already has really great brow shape. I think you just got them done actually, didn't you? Yeah, they look bomb. I'm just gonna fill out the ends a little bit. We're not looking for like a super framed brow. Like we don't want it to look like a clown or anything. Just like a little bit thicker, a little bit filled in. And you'll notice the motion that I'm using is kind of like hairs. I get a lot of questions about what to use for brows because you know they make brow powders, they make pomades, they make pencils like this. My rule of thumb is usually that brow powder is good for people that already have a lot of brow hair because the powder clings to the hairs that you have naturally. Because she already has such great brows, I'm literally just going in and filling in little gaps with the pencil just because it's super easy. I try to stay away from pomades though because I think they're too opaque. It looks a little bit unnatural in my opinion when it's just like a block of color, you know? I kind of think that pomades are more of like for the Instagram beats and stuff like that, where you're not like in someone's face, you're just kind of behind a camera and it's okay to have that opacity. Just a little something. And as you know, like with current trends, like thicker brows are back in or whatever, like from the 90s. So I usually ask my clients, especially if they don't have any brows, what kind of brow they would like. It's it's really important to have the connection with your client that you want them to look the way they want to look and not necessarily how you want them to look. I've noticed that sometimes on shoots, especially like for fashion week and things like that, I see like models in other people's chairs that like really don't look happy, and that is not going to serve anyone well in the long run. Like if they're doing a runway show or something, if someone doesn't feel good, it's going to show, like especially in a photo. And you don't want people to be memorialized looking unhappy, you know? So I make a point to be really upbeat, and as I'm doing the beat, getting excited about it, like, oh my God, you're looking so good, this is really coming along, I'm gonna turn you out. Because you are the mirror for the client while you're doing their face. And you want them to get excited about it so that when they do see it, even if it's not something that they're used to, they still feel beautiful because you're telling them they're beautiful. And meaning it, you know? One of my pet peeves is when anyone doing makeup on, like a client or not, are constantly getting up to like look in the mirror or like on their phone, like constantly looking at themselves during the process. And I understand that it's usually out of insecurity and a lack of trust, so I try to build that up verbally with like my body language and really make the people feel like you're gonna look good and I'm gonna make sure of it. And if you don't feel confident when you finally look in the mirror, we're gonna fix it so that you do. Just like super subtle. I feel like that is something like over time that I have grown, the area in which I've grown the most is like subtlety with makeup, because I got into makeup like as a drag queen. And then I worked backwards from drag to learning how to do natural makeup, and it's something that I only recently feel really confident doing, is like natural makeup. My rule used to be that I only do natural makeup on the girls, like trans babes, because I have a lot of clients, trans women specifically, coming to me, especially early in their transition, that are like, I want to learn how to wear makeup during the day and not look like a drag queen. And finding that area of subtlety helped me understand how to work with cis clients better in terms of what they actually want in a natural look and what would read best on camera. Because pores are not a bad thing. It's just about how big they are. In terms of efficiency, with both brows and if I'm doing like a wing, I think it's best to get the product on the person's face, and if it's not exactly how you want it, you can go in with concealer and shape it exactly how you want it. I see that some people are, they spend so long trying to get their cat eye exactly perfect. And, if you make one mistake, I see people like taking off the entire thing, like out of frustration. That just seems not super efficient to me, because if I want to get like a cat eye on here, same with brows, I just want to get the product on there and then I can shape it exactly how I want it with concealer. It's like an eraser, And I'll do that in a second. Well, something. I'm gonna go right under her brow with some concealer. And this is really a great trick if you ever have a client that has some stray hairs makeup artists back in the day used to literally tweeze their clients' eyebrow hairs, or sometimes even bleach their brows. Models, and I've seen some videos, and I didn't see the model like necessarily enjoying that, because I was like, makeup is supposed to be about something that is transient. It's not supposed to be permanent. So I don't want to take over the client's face like for the long term. So I would never pull out someone's hair unless they ask me to, because maybe they want to get a bushy brow or something like that. But for the look, if we're doing it like for a shoot or something, we maybe want to clean up the brows a little bit.
What is that palette?
This is a MAC palette. It's just concealers. And you can see, for example, right here, I don't like how the black is coming down that I put on, so I'm just going to clean it up really sharp like this.
Do you use different color concealers for different parts of the face, or do you just use one?
I'll end up using the same color under her eyes also. Not that she even needs that much makeup, because she has such great skin already, but just for the demonstration today, I'm going to show it works.
What's your favorite drugstore brand?
Black Opal is a really great brand for people with deeper imperfections. Black Opal. Honestly, a lot of drugstore products are really great, and they're really affordable. It really just depends on the person's skin. I would say, because those products are so cheap, just like try a few of them and see what works best for you. Also, if any of y'all ever want any Makeup Forever products, they give me like a huge ass discount at the Pro Store off of Union Square, so we can go together and I can pick it up for you if you want it.
Are you represented by Makeup Forever?
No, but they like give me a lot of nice things. So let's get it poppin'.
Let's get you.
Oh yeah, that would be nice. You see how we're creating a shape here, like with the brows? And I'm just gonna blend it out with a little brush.
Those are short.
And I like using this lighter concealer around the entire brow, even on top, because if makeup is about bringing definition to the face and working with light and shadows, and the brow bone is like usually more aesthetically forward. That's just the way it is on the skull. And so using this lighter color here, it kind of further accentuates that. And eventually it will get blended into the foundation as well. So I'm going to put a little primer on her eyes. This is Urban Decay's Primer Potion. They're like really famous for it. If we think about our eyes biologically, they produce a lot of oil, which is why our eyelids are like the greasiest part of our face, because they have to be mechanical the entire day, like this. So they make face primers, they also make eyelid primers. And the difference is that these tend to be more drying because of where we're putting them. They need to like soak up that oil so that we're not putting eyeshadow onto a layer of oil. If you've ever done that in the past, you'll notice that like by the end of the day, it has moved around superficially because you're putting it onto a layer of oil. And also, I have had some clients tell me that they're frustrated with like the opacity of a color they put on their eyelids. They're like, it's not like bold. I'm like putting colors and it's not bold. It's for that same reason, because you're putting it onto a layer of oil. So this is great because you can see it's like white. So any color that you put onto it, it's gonna stick because it's absorbing the oil, and it's gonna be more vibrant because you're putting it against a white background. And if I was doing this on myself, I would literally just go with the spoolie. But with clients, I always put it onto my hand first, like a palette, just for sanitation reasons. And you'll start to see, like, see how I got some down here? I'm not concerned about that because I'm going to be wiping it away. That allows me to be like a little bit messy, but to save some time. So obviously what a day look and what an evening look is for everybody is different, and that's the beauty of makeup. You see people like coming out of MAC, they got a full face, full contour. That was popularized partially by the Kardashians, because that was showing their day-to-day life, and they were full beat in their day-to-day life. And a lot of like the contouring and stuff like that came out of the drag scene, you know, and it has been adapted. And it's super important that we pay homage to that in terms of like makeup as a culture. Joy. Okay, so I'm going to be using this Naked palette by Urban Decay. It's like just a great bunch of like kind of nudes, earth tones, not too much drama, but I'm going to throw a little sparkle in there because that's what we're here for. So I'm going to start with this deeper color right here, and I'm going to pack that right into the corner of her eye over here. We want to think about the eyes as like spheres, like balls, and we're trying to showcase their depth. And so we want to make it darker on the outsides, and then have a highlight in the middle, kind of like a globe. Because that is usually like more aesthetically pleasing if the eyes seem more deep set and bigger. And like I said before, we have fallout, that's totally fine. I'm not concerned about it because I'm going to be wiping it away. And let's put a nice little color like this. It's kind of like a bronze moment. Different makeup artists like to do this in different orders. This is kind of what I've just found works for me. I like to get all the color on the eyelid itself, and then I go with a blending brush and blend it all together in the crease. And the type of brush that I'm using for something like this is just kind of like a short. It's not a blending brush. Blending brushes usually have like kind of more of a V shape, like think of like this. And the bristles are not so tight. This is like tighter, which is great because it's just for holding pigment. And it may seem like, you know, I'm not even really lifting her eyelid that much by doing this, but it's more about having a connection with your client physically so that they feel comfortable in your hands, physically in your hands. So I'm always making sure that if I want her a certain way, I'm like physically moving her really gently to make sure that it turns out the best way it can. And like I've had clients start to fall asleep before, like, which is always flattering. It is supposed to be like a relaxing experience, you know? It's like art therapy. Yeah. And then we're gonna go with an even layer color. This side. Getting it on there real gentle.
Did you have like a specific inspo for this look, or are you just kind of feeling it out?
I'm just feeling it out. I'm just doing like colors and things like that that generally look good on a lot of skin tones and for a lot of occasions. Okay, so I'm gonna take my blending brush, which is, this one's by Makeup Geek. Makeup Geek makes a lot of really great brushes. I find that the bristles don't fall out that easily, which is always good, because it saves me money. And I'm gonna start on the outside, and I'm just gonna start going with this, and kind of like little circular motions. and then back and forth. The goal with a kind of smoky eye type of look is just no fine lines. You want it to kind of fade out as it goes up. And you'll notice I kind of like to drag the darker part, which is on the end, out a little bit. Because when I go back in and sweep with the makeup wipe, it'll give me a really nice like faux wingtip that isn't like super bold or opaque, but it kind of creates the same look that you have like a bigger lash, you know? So I'm bringing it out all the way over here. I find that a lot of people kind of use like the wingtip as like a crutch. Like, it's not necessarily to say it's a bad thing, but some people feel like they only look good if they have a wingtip, and you know, if they don't have their favorite liner, they don't want to leave out the house. And I really want to show my clients that their faces are so dynamic and they can accomplish so many different looks. And I feel like this is like kind of a great transitional look for someone who wants to experiment with more types of looks in their day-to-day life, because it still kind of has the wingtip like aesthetic, but it's just a different way of doing it, you know. Just a little drama for the bodega. Why the hell not? You can get a free sandwich or something. And you'll notice that I'm kind of keeping this little area right in the arch of the brow unpigmented, like I'm not putting anything there. And that's because it will further accentuate that the brows are arched when I put a highlight in there later. And what? Okay, she agreed to do a lash, so I'm gonna put a lash, okay? I normally buy these Ardell lashes in like a big old pack because they give you a free one if you buy it in a big pack. They're really affordable and they look really great. They don't look like drag lashes, but they definitely give you volume. And when I'm buying lashes, I like to buy ones that, see how they have like some space in between them? It's not just like a thick fan. Mm-hmm. They blend in really, really great when they're like that. And they don't look like you're wearing thick lashes so much. And you'll also notice that, see how they're shorter on like the inside of the eye and they kind of get longer? That like further accentuates like that wing and that length and that volume that we're going for. But it blends in really nice. And you know, everyone has a different eye shape. So most lashes are made in one size. So I always try them on my client before I put glue on them. I just go like this, close it for me. And these are gonna be a great size for her. But if they weren't, if for example, she had smaller eyes, I always keep scissors in my kit and I just trim them so that they actually like look right on the client. And I always trim them from the end in because we don't want to take off this gradient here. Because if I chopped it on the shorter side, it would just be like a block, you know?
So you want like the feathering out to happen at the edge of the eye.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of like the biggest mistakes people make with lashes? Like, because like I just feel like putting them on myself, like I'm ripping eyelashes off when I take them off.
How what sort of adhesive do you use?
They're like, it was like really intense, like performance lash glue because they're left over from when I was dancing a lot. And I think that maybe the glue was just real intense and I didn't get, like maybe I went a little too far.
Yeah, that could be part of it.
Yeah.
Some people use coconut oil to take it off because it's kind of gentle.
Yeah.
I also, you'll notice that I put a little glue on my hand and I'm literally just dipping the lash in like this.
Yeah.
Some applicators, you know, you can like, it's like a brush and you can put it like on like that. I kind of don't really like doing that because it can get too clumpy in my opinion. I'd much rather like really gently do it like this so I can really control and use as little as possible. So that when the client does take them off at the end of the night, they come off super easily. But the hold is there the whole day, you know?
I've had that happen too with like different adhesives. Like I used the House of Lashes adhesive, and like I felt like it was like Duo was like really soft.
Mind you, I didn't really soak my eyes with makeup remover. I think it was one of those moments where like you just want to take everything off your face.
So it's your bathroom.
It was.
And I usually use this Duo lash glue. It looks white right now, but when it dries, it's clear, which is great. So even if like a few little spots like get up on the eye like that, that's fine because it will just dry clear. They also make a black one, which is good if you wanted to look really, really bold and almost like you have like an opaque eyeliner on. I prefer not to use that because it can very easily go wrong. Like if you accidentally get a spot somewhere, then it's like a black spot, you know?
Yeah, and you can just build off
Yeah,
of
this is
that.
just risk management.
Yeah.
Okay, look out for me. Think a few times. Kind of adjust them, especially for people that are like new to wearing lashes. Even if you did everything right,
They look really good. They look natural.
Yeah. Even if the client is like new to wearing lashes, they can be kind of like, oh my god, this is uncomfortable for me, like it feels heavy. And it does feel heavy if you're not used to wearing them. And that's why I'm like, okay, blink a few times, you'll forget about them in like a minute.
Yeah.
Did you curl them at all?
I didn't curl them. I'm like almost against, like using an eyelash curler. Also, that's kind of like risk management to me because I am all about not making the client uncomfortable. And when you're working with someone's eyes, it can very easily go wrong if you're not being tactful. And so if I always carry an eyelash curler, I never use it because the lashes, usually I use lashes that already flip up and I will go in like this closer for me and I'll just press them and kind of make sure that they are with the natural lash, like kind of going up, just with my fingers like this. Because if I wasn't doing that, I would go in with an eyelash curler and I would be right in the eye like this, and that's not comfortable for anybody. It's not even comfortable on yourself. So I don't want to do that on somebody else if I don't have to.
If you're using someone's natural lashes and not putting fake eyelashes on them, would you then?
Only if they needed it.
Like, did you use it?
I don't think I did.
I don't think I would wear false eyelashes because I feel like right? It's like
Some people like East Asian descent have lashes that go down and kind of like cover their eye. And that's just a conversation that I like need to have with that client.
yeah.
I'm like, is this something that's uncomfortable for you? Do you want your lashes curled up? Do you want fake lashes? If I was working with someone with a monolid, I would pull the skin up so that I could see the lash line under the skin, and I would stick the lash under the skin, and then let the skin back down to rest over it. But yeah, it's all about keeping communication open with your client and letting you know that you're not trying to make them uncomfortable, physically or with the overall look, you know?
What about the inner corners? Because I always feel like the inner corners are hard to stick and it'll like come off just a little bit.
For the lash, you mean?
Yeah.
Like putting on fake lash?
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see very well, but I don't put the lash all the way
Yeah.
into the corner of the eye. I start it like almost where the pupil like starts right here. I don't bring it all the way in because I think it can be kind of uncomfortable, and most people have like some lash hairs in the middle, even if the rest is like kind of sparse. And so I'll just buff that up with mascara and it will blend into the rest of the lash getting thicker. And especially if the client like starts getting teary-eyed or something like that, I always have Q-tips because it can be sensitive, especially when you get into like doing borderline, things like that, like I'll show you. And I'm gonna go in right now with some mascara. This is Urban Decay's Perversion. I'm like so behind Urban Decay, partially because they're based out of my hometown. And I've been to their headquarters, and they have like a really beautiful like women-ran space, and their products are actually really high quality, so I can get behind it. Look down for me. Close your eyes, actually. There you go. So I always have the clients close their eyes when I'm doing their lashes because I want to be in control of the lid and where I'm putting the lash. So if you're not having that communication with the client, they might be blinking, and that's just going to make them cry. So I always tell my clients, close your eyes and let me open your lid. So I go like this, so that I can get up under them. And this not only like blends the natural lashes with the fake lashes better, but also just kind of gives them like a little bit of another like boost. And while I'm here with my mascara, if the client has like darker eyebrow hair, then I also drag the mascara through the brows. Both to like lock in any stray brow hairs, like to keep them in line, but also because the ombre thing is like really popular right now, like having an ombre over here and then it getting thicker. So you'll notice that I didn't put any pencil like right here because we don't want it to look like a block. But I still want you to see those brow hairs that are naturally there. So I'll just go in with some mascara and kind of stick them up and buff them up a little bit. Bing, ba boom.
Can you give me Kate Moss for Rimmel London? Do you guys remember those commercials? The London London.
That is what they said.
So I'm going to do her waterline right now since I'm here. Let's just get the eye stuff all out of the way. This is a Makeup Forever pencil that I clearly use a lot of. This is one of their multi-purpose pencils, so you can use it for waterline, you can use it for lips. You can even put it on your eyelid and blend it out if you want like a shadow that is like very light. You can use it for brows. So whenever I'm doing, is everyone familiar with what the waterline is? Has everyone put? Yeah, so basically if you pull down on your eye, you'll see there's like a strip behind your lash line that is literally what is right next to your eyeball. And putting a liner there of any color just accentuates like your lower lashes. It's to kind of recreate a lower lash, thicken them up a little bit. So I'm gonna have you look up at the ceiling for me. And I pull down on the skin so that the waterline is away from the eye. So there's no chance that I could poke the client in the eye unless they start moving, you know?
I feel like I'm always kind of afraid that when I go for my waterline that I'm just gonna like rub something into my eye.
I mean,
Just an area.
you just have to trust yourself
Yeah.
that you won't. And pull, and obviously when you're doing it yourself, you can't be like looking away. So you just look at yourself and pull and go like that. And you'll notice that I didn't bring it all the way to the corner of her eye. I literally only do half. Because the goal usually with makeup is to make the eyes appear bigger, you know, and more deeper set. And so if I bring the black all the way across the bottom, it's almost like you're caging the eye in. And we want to keep the eye open, but we still want to have the illusion of like a thick lower lash. So I literally only bring it halfway to the pupil. And then I'll end up putting a highlight here. And that'll keep the eyes kind of open, you know? Does that make sense? Look over there for me. You see those bottom halves? Cute. Okay, so we're like almost done with the eyes. So I'm just gonna swipe under there and get all that fallout out of the way. Look over the ceiling for me. Bye-bye.
videos.
I know,
So,
right?
Yeah. Oh my god.
And I'm gonna get this area over here. And you'll notice I'm just dragging it from the corner of the eye all the way to where like the brow ends. Like that corner is like the hypotenuse. I've been trying to use that for a while. I don't know, I love mouth.
What's your favorite makeup you use in the day?
I try to use something that is oil free, and usually unscented unless it's something cute like lavender or like cucumber or something like that. I just try to think about like anything that might bother the client, and I don't get it. I don't buy makeup wipes with parabens in them. Some of them have like a little moisturizer in them, like shea butter or things like that. That's great because it's just hydrating the skin even more. And I usually just use one makeup wipe per client. You'll notice I'll just like keep folding it and I'll set it right here, and then I'll come back to it and like because of the environment. Boom, yeah, boom, boom. Okay, let's get into some face. So her skin is already clearly very hydrated, so I'm not going to put a moisturizer on her right now. If I was going to put a moisturizer on, I would have done it before I did the eyes, so that would have had some time to absorb into her face. But she really doesn't need it right now. She already has really nice glowing skin, so there's no need to. But what I am going to use is a little primer. There's so many different types of face primers, you know, especially Make It Forever. They make like a mattifying one, which is very drying. I wouldn't recommend it unless you have a client or if you have really oily skin. They make ones with a green tint, which is great. If I have a client that knows that she or he or whatever gets like red, like from drinking or anything like that, I'll use a green primer under the foundation because it will correct for that redness and you won't really be able to see it throughout the night.
So what face cream are you using?
Oh, this one is by, what's it say? Camelina and Strobe. Oh, wait, that's the name of it. The company is called Seraphine Botanicals. I don't know the names of some of the products I use because I just get sent a bunch sometimes and I'm just like, okay, like let's just like see how this works before I start paying attention to like the brand name, you know. But this one I like, I use this one on myself. So I'm literally just gonna put this into the area of like the T-zone. You'll notice that it has kind of a little highlight in it, like a little strobe, which is kind of nice. Just any area that she might get oily throughout the day, I'm putting this here.
And this isn't tinted at all.
It's like a little bit like glowy. Like it has some like shine in it. But it's not like there's no like color.
Yeah, it's not like
yeah. And it's also going to put a primer in places where you might have creasing or things like that. Usually like the lines in the cheek. If you have like, she doesn't have it, but if you have like a line in your forehead like me, I would put some there. Joy. And I'm noticing now that her lips are a little bit dry, which is the case for most of us in this time of year. So I'm just gonna put a little bit of a lip product on her lips, just because we're not doing the lips yet, but just so that by the time I get to the lips, which is at the very end, it is absorbed. Cool, let's do a foundation moment. I was just telling Teddy that I recently purchased all these Make It Forever foundations, and I'm obsessed with them. I would much prefer to use a foundation that is high coverage because I can just sheer it out if I want something less high coverage. It doesn't make as much sense to me to carry around a bunch of like light coverage foundations because when the client needs coverage, you don't want to just like layer so much makeup. Successful makeup to me is high coverage and lightweight. Because you don't want the client to feel like they have 10 pounds on. It should feel like you're not even wearing makeup, you know? And I have been using, this is a Fenty brush. It's actually the only Fenty brush I own. I need to buy more of them. This is like an amazing foundation brush because if you can see the shape of it, it holds pigment really well because it's all kind of tight. And because of the shape of it, I will just go in like this, and isn't that soft? Yeah, it's so nice. And normally I try to stay away from brush hairs that are not like black because even after sanitizing brushes and everything like that, over time they could just kind of tend to get stained, like with that just from overuse, even if they're totally clean, and that does not look cute. These clean out so well. I clean them with alcohol, and it's like a peak moment. Like it doesn't look like dirty, you know. Oh, you know what? It's not. But this is just their foundation brush. I think this is the only one they have actually. So one thing that I really like about Makeup Forever foundations is that what's that? It's Y523. One thing I really like about the way Makeup Forever brands their foundations is they either have a Y or an R in front of every like foundation name, and that stands for the undertone because usually people have yellow undertones or red undertones. In actuality, we all have multiple undertones in our skin, so I usually like to mix a little bit of both before I put it on a client because that looks more natural to me. And you know, even with Fenty's like revolutionary thing, like having 50 foundation shades or whatever it is, there's more skin tones than that. Everyone has like a unique combination of pigment in their skin. So I very rarely use the color that is straight out of the foundation on a client. I'll usually mix it with a little something. And you can see on the palette, see how opaque it is? That's totally fine because I'm going to be shearing it out across the entire face, so it doesn't look like a mask.
But this Makeup Forever, it's the velvet matte, right?
Matte velvet, yeah.
Matte velvet?
Yeah.
But like, what if you want like a glowy skin velvet?
Yeah, totally. So shine is a good thing. It's just about managing the shine. So I like this matte velvet because matte means, you know, no shine. But the way the foundation lays on, once it dries, it's set. Like it will stay for like the entire day. And so I like to use this as the base and then put the glow back in exactly where I want it so that the face doesn't look oily, but we still have like the glow. And it will be long wear also.
Something that I hear a lot people talk about is like the undertones of your skin. Are there any ways that you suggest like how you find that on the client? I mean, maybe there are ways to look for it. Like some people are like, oh, check the inside of your wrist, or oh, check the, you know, that sort of thing.
Yeah, so that is like an old makeup trick, is to like look at your wrist and see what your undertone is. The fact of the matter is, especially because we live in like a seasonal environment, people's complexions are constantly changing. So like I have a foundation for myself for winter, and I have a foundation for myself for summer. And usually, I mean, you'll stay like the same undertone, but your complexion will be different. I would say the best thing to do is to go to a makeup store and just try the product on and wear it around the store for like 10 minutes or so because a lot of foundations oxidize. And that means that usually as they are exposed to oxygen, they'll change color, darker usually. So Fenty is very open about that. They have on their website like, oh, our products oxidize. Get a shade lighter than your actual skin tone because once you put it on and it's exposed to oxygen, it will become the color that you actually want. And what's that? I would keep it in mind, like as I'm doing the client, and I would do the color a little bit lighter, or I would just use a foundation that doesn't oxidize, because not all of them do. I color matched her earlier, but if I wasn't sure what shade she was, I would always start by putting a little bit of a test on the jawline because the goal is to match the color of the neck. I've seen some makeup artists that, you know, when they start with a test, they're putting it like on the forehead. It just doesn't really make sense because there's nothing to compare it to. And the goal with makeup is to make sure that you don't have a floating head.
Gotcha.
You know, usually people's bodies are a different color than their face, and that's just because our face is what gives them most skin. So I'm not concerned about matching it to her hands or like things like that. Like obviously my hands are like more pink than the rest of my body, and that's the case for most people. So sometimes I see like makeup artists posting photos and the model is like has their hand right next to their face, and the hand doesn't match the face, and that's okay. As long as the face matches the neck, that's what's important. You just don't want to look like a clown, you know? So I'm just doing this super light because she already has such great skin. And it's okay to warm up the face with the foundation because I'm going to be going in with concealer under the face, and that will tie the entire thing together. It's mostly just about getting the skin really, really even. And whenever I use this matte foundation on myself also, and I try to be really tactful about not putting it below anyone's eyes because the part of it being matte is that it will dry and last. And if you're putting it on a place in your face where you naturally have like a lot of creasing, like under the eyes, just from having an eyeball, like it will further accentuate those creases, which you don't want. So I'm gonna go in with a cream concealer under the eyes later. So I'm putting this all over the face except for right under the eyes.
I just feel like my life has really changed with just the simple, like, full coverage concealer. Plus, like, it lasts you so much longer.
Yeah.
Like, I used to get that. Does anybody know that, like, NYX Dropper foundation?
Yes.
Yeah, and I was excited because it, like, felt like it matched, but, like, I felt that, I just felt like I was so caked because it was, like, so sheer.
Yeah.
And so when I had, like, a bad skin day, I was like, I literally had a mask on.
Because this is about like the subtle blend of something that's actually like very opaque and deep.
Yeah. I mean, we're thinking about longevity here. Like, the way you do makeup is different depending on what it's for, at least as a makeup artist. If I'm doing makeup for a photo shoot, I'll do it differently than if I have a client coming over to get their face beat to go out and party. You know, keeping in mind what it's for. So if someone was just getting their face done for a photo shoot, I wouldn't use a lot of powder on the face because I want it to be like kind of like dewy and not super matte. And powder is also about keeping it long wear because it will absorb the oil that your body naturally produces over time. If it's just for a photo shoot, I'm not concerned about the long term because it's just about how it looks right now for the photo.
And you're on set to touch it up.
Yeah. One thing that I find really frustrating about like the YouTube videos that I see is that it's always people doing the makeup on themselves, and my goal is to eventually have like, if I can ever wrap my head around any tech stuff, like I want to have like a YouTube series where I'm doing makeup on other people on camera, and I can have like a different type of person every week to show, you know, how to work with different types of people and talk about it from a third party perspective. Where I can be like, okay, well, if you have monolids, you can also achieve this look. You just have to do this differently. Or, you know, if you need to color correct because you have like facial hair or stubble or something like that and you don't want it, this is how you do it. And I'm just gonna do it right now for an example, but I see a lot of people that don't put foundation on the ears. I think that doesn't make a lot of sense to me because if the ears, at least people with more fair skin like me, you can tell, well, I put foundation on my ears, like I took my advice, but ears have a lot of capillaries and they're usually like pinker. And so if I like blend out my whole face, and it matches my neck and everything, and then I have these pink ears. It doesn't really bring the whole look together. So if I have a client, like, for example, her hair is gonna be over her ears, so it's really negligible, but I would just like brush it over like this, just to kind of bring the whole thing together, for example.
Ears are crazy.
What's that?
I just said ears are crazy.
Yeah, really. God, you have amazing skin. Like a baby. See, that's it. There's just like, there's so many products in this industry, and it's like so easy to overcomplicate everything, but I see a lot of my friends like starting to really worry about, you know, what they're gonna look like in 30 years and like wrinkles and things like that, and that's totally understandable. The best skincare is like managing your stress and drinking a lot of water, you know. Also, sunscreen. I recommend everyone wearing sunscreen like year round, even if you're a darker complexion, because sun damage will really affect your skin in the long term.
What's a good like cute sunscreen?
I
It's like the
this
base
one.
one is missing
This
from my
one's
routine.
by La Roche-Posay.
Oh yeah.
My mom sent me this,
That's
and
like a drugstore. You can get that at CVS.
yeah, it's not like cheap. It
It's
is.
not cheap, it's like that higher.
Yeah, it's like a bougie sunscreen.
But it's not too
But
oily.
my mom sent this to me because she's like, oh, this won't like make you break out, and it's like you. And
Yeah, because
it's
that's
like
what-
$30 or something, but you really only need a tiny bit. And what I normally do, my home makeup routine is I put foundation in my hand and I squeeze sunscreen into it and I mix it like this and I go like this. And obviously going like this, it covers my brows and my mustache. So then I just run mascara through it. It's like 5 minutes. And then I can just leave and it's like matte. You know? No, today I did a little something else. But if I'm like in a hurry and I need to look cute,
Do you recommend diluting foundation with sunscreen?
it's a great way to sheer out like highly pigmented foundation. Like this one, high coverage means highly pigmented. And if you don't want something that's that pigmented, you can sheer it out with moisturizer or sunscreen. It will just lower the opacity, you know, which is good. So you use less, and it also doesn't look like quite some light coverage. Sometimes that can be too much. And you'll notice that I'm kind of going like under her lips a little bit. That's totally fine. In fact, it will make any lipstick color that I put on more opaque. Similar to the way I put a primer on the eyelids that will make the color pop more, putting a color, like continuing the foundation onto the lips also acts as like a kind of a clean canvas to even it out before we put a lip on. It can also just be kind of a quick like nude. Like literally bring the foundation onto the lips and put a gloss on it. You have a nude lip that matches that person's complexion, like right away. And if you have a client that is about to put on a lace front or something like that, usually the hair person will have me put some foundation up here before they put the lace front on, just so that it matches like the ombre between the hair and the skin. Cute. Okay. Let's do a little under eye moment. Look up at the ceiling for me. So I'm just going in with the cream concealer. Keep looking up there. And this is also a great opportunity to make those wings that we created by blending out the eyeshadow even sharper. See how I kind of further defined that line right there? But it's not too drawn out because I just blended it out. And we're gonna get into some highlights right now also. So I'm gonna take a color that's a few shades lighter than her skin tone, and I'm gonna put that any place that I would want to simulate the light hitting, or that it actually does. So the bridge of the nose, usually right in the middle of the forehead. And obviously this is not something that she needs. This is just maybe like if I had a photo shoot or something and I really wanted to make the shadows and the light have more contrast for whatever reason, this is the way that I would accomplish that. So I'm getting into contouring now. I'm gonna go with a color that is a few shades darker than her complexion now. And obviously, this is a daytime look for some people, and for other people it's way too much makeup. So I'm just showcasing a lot of different techniques so that you can find what works best for you if it's something that you're interested in pursuing. So when I'm trying to find where I want the cheekbone contrast to be, I'm thinking about where the ear, if I was to draw a line from the bottom of the ear to the corner of the lip, that's kind of where we would imagine the cheekbone shadow to be, in that general area. So I'm gonna stick it right here. And it doesn't have to be perfect, you know, you're just trying to get the product on the face because you're gonna end up blending it out. And a little bit down the center of the nose. And some people also like the idea of a nose that kind of like comes up at the end, that is like aesthetically more pleasing or something. So I put a little bit under the nose as well, because it stimulates a shadow. So it looks like it's not quite coming down that way. And for example, if I was working with a client that wanted to maybe feminize their features or make their forehead appear smaller, I would also put some up here to make the face appear more oval. You know, especially like I have kind of like a masculine hairline, which is like square, you see? So if I wanted to make it more oval, I would put the darker color right here also, and it would make it appear like my face is like more round and less square.
Would the inverse work in the other direction? Like if you wanted like a more square look, would you put a highlight there instead, or no?
You could, like really high up on the forehead.
Yeah.
You could possibly do that. I wouldn't recommend it just because if there's any place that you don't want to be oily on your face, it's your forehead.
Yeah.
Like dew is all good up in here, but once it gets there, you just look kind of sweaty, you know, or something. Cool, so we got a little cream. As I've been talking, her body is warming up and starting already to, just natural body heat is starting to warm it up, so it'll be very easy to spread with my beauty blender, which is this thing. I clean these with alcohol, and it's a good idea to have them a little bit moist. Not like wet, but like I'll rinse it and then I'll squeeze it all out. Because that will help spread the product, but not feel like it's scraping. You know, because if it's dry, it's kind of feeling like it's scraping. And I really like using these because not only does it spread the product, but it absorbs any excess.
Sometimes are you going straight down and straight off, and then sometimes across the skin? I don't know when.
Do you mean the way that I'm doing this?
Yeah.
I usually just go, the direction isn't really that important. I would just recommend not doing streaks, because then you'll have streaks like in the product. It's just like a constant like little dabbing like this. And you'll notice that I'm like gently holding her head while I'm doing this. This is just to make sure that it keeps in the same spot. Because I am like pressing against her. It can be kind of uncomfortable for the client to like have to hold their head forward. And creative concealers and creative foundations are like almost the same thing. It's just like different marketing. See, it's like subtle, but you can see like there's a darker color like right around the nose.
Mm-hmm.
See how she's glowing? Not too drama. So what I am going to want to do is I want to put powder right under her eyes because as you can already see, look at the ceiling. See how creases are already starting to happen? That just happens from moving your eyes around. That's just the way your body works. I don't want to put powder all over her face because I want to retain the glow. But we do want to put it right under the eyes to keep that creasing from continuing as she continues to use her eyes like you do in life. So I'm just going to take a little brush like this. You can use a blending brush. You can use just any tiny little brush, literally. I'm going to use like this little blending brush. And I'm going to take like this. This is just like a bronzer, honestly. It's just like a pressed powder. And I'm going to go, look at the ceiling for me. And I'm going to go with my finger and blend it out, literally right before I put the powder on to make sure, because even me just going here to get the bronzer, she's recreated the creases, like just from looking. So I want to get in there. Because if we think about it, like the cream concealer is like sticky. So if we have two things, like it's not actually sticky, but that for the analogy, if we have two things that are sticky, like a crease, they're gonna stick together, like as they're pressed more and more from your eye moving around, and it will further enhance the shadow and like the divot. Is that making sense?
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm putting this on top of that divot, I'm drying it out because I'm putting powder against it. So if you have two sides with powder on them, they're not gonna stick because they're both dry.
Mm.
Good. And if I do notice that by the end of the application, she still has a little bit of like unnatural creasing there, I can go back in and just add a little bit more powder. But I can always touch that up at the end. So, let's get into a blush moment because the way to create an effective contour is like three things. It's the darker color, which is like the contrast, the shadow of the cheekbone, which we did like very lightly. It's the highlight, which I put on at the end, which is the lighter color, and the blush, which is like the middle warmer color that connects the two, and also puts some life back into your face. So there's a few different ways to do this. You can use powder. I have so many different blushes right here that I have just put in a little palette. I usually like to use kind of more like deeper reds and almost purple, like a few for deeper complexions. And for people with more fair skin, I usually use like kind of almost like oranges and pinks. These are all powder, like I was saying. But I really want to keep the dew in her face. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of lipstick. And because lipstick is like, it's like a wax, you know, so it will have a really nice shine to it. I'm just going to put a few little dots right here.
I'm so obsessed with blush right
So you're putting it in the same area that you put
Like right above,
the,
like
right above where you
right
put the
above
contour?
where I put it, yeah. And I'm gonna blend it back out with my beauty blender. I like doing this because it's subtle and it also still has like a nice little shine to it, while also not feeling like wet. So if you were like, you know, give someone a hug or give someone a kiss, it wouldn't like come off on their face. The other great application for this is you can tie the entire face together by using this same lipstick shade that you use for their blush on their lips.
Now, is there a specific reason why you place the blush really big?
I kind of like to, like most people like talk about putting it right here on like the ball of the cheek. I like to put it on the ball of the cheek, but also bring it back here because once I put the highlight on, I like to think of this as like an entire little sphere. Like similar to the way that we were talking about the eyes, think about this as a sphere. So the definition is like long, like this. And you'll notice I always, when I'm like blending someone in the face, I use my ring finger. I don't know if it's true or not, but someone told me that this finger has the most padding in it, so it's the less likely to like create wrinkles on your face. Who knows if that's a real thing, but it's just stuck in my head. Yeah, who knows?
It's like the one you use the least was bigger than the pinky.
Right.
Okay. Mine's definitely the biggest.
I was always told that it's the weakest finger on the hand, so like especially like when going under the eyes.
Yeah.
So like it's not gonna pull at the skin too much.
So in your art wind. She's a healer I met. I thought my dad was my boyfriend.
That looks so good. Yeah.
She's like, I hate with my mom and my dad and me. And she's like, oh, I love this couple. I love you guys.
Like blue eyes.
If any of y'all have not tried this, I highly recommend it. It's called Hydrating Oil by Milk. It is super great for creating like a dewy highlight. I prefer not to use like powder highlights because I think it looks pretty like textured on the face. And I see a lot, I forget who I was talking with about this earlier, but a lot of like times on Instagram you see people with a highlight and it's literally like a streak. And it's like a streak any direction that they're looking because they literally just painted a streak on their face. But that is not quite so natural looking in day-to-day life. You want something that like moves with the light, like as you move your face in the direction of a streak, but not a streak the whole time. You know?
Is that similar to the cover effects of the custom enhanced drops?
I haven't tried it, to be honest.
I've tried those. It doesn't feel the same. Those feel like
Not
dry
really,
into
because it's more of an oil. Like you can use that like as skincare as well.
Yeah. That's like kind of like Milk's thing, is like their makeup products are like skincare, you know?
The blush looks so good. It really does.
Yeah, great.
Pick up princess. So you put a little bit of shine kind of at like the end of like kind of
This
like
is me putting the shine like back into the face because I took it away with the matte foundation. But I used matte so that it would be long wear. So I'm putting this anywhere that I want like a little highlight. So I'll put it on the tip of the nose, on the bridge of the nose, on each little side of the nostril like this, on the cupid's bow, maybe a little bit on the chin, don't mind if I do, and in the arch of the brow. You see how she's shining like that?
And does that have a tint?
It doesn't.
Okay.
And sometimes if I'm really feeling it, I'll take like a little bit of gold. This is great for deeper skin complexions. I don't know if you've ever heard, but there's like an old saying about jewelry. Like silver jewelry is for certain skin tones, and gold jewelry is for certain skin tones. Obviously, that's just a constructed aesthetic choice. But similarly, working with deeper and lighter skin, it can be more flattering for golds to go with deeper complexions and silvers and to go with lighter skin tones. So I'm going to be using a little bit of gold. And just a little bit. I'm going to put it right here where I had that highlight. And it's like a subtle thing, but I just think it looks so beautiful. Dripping and glow kind of moment. Same thing that I just did with the oil, basically. Just a little something. Okay, so we're like almost done. I basically just have to do lips. And I'm gonna put a little bit of mascara on her lower lashes now. And one other thing I'm going to do, actually a little trick, is a lot of people don't think about putting eyeliner on the top waterline. So because like we were talking about earlier, I didn't bring the lash all the way into the corner of the eyes. So that area is looking like a little bit bare, just by nature. So I'm going to have her look up at the ceiling. And I'm going in on the top waterline, just bringing it from this edge to the actual corner of the eye. Literally just that little tiny area. Look up this way, and look down a bit with your face, and then look over this side. There you go.
I'm just like
Wow.
learning some
That's
new things.
very nice.
Just to like kind of bring it all the way over, but not actually, because if you bring a lash all the way over there, it can poke them in the eye sometimes.
I
You know?
definitely have done that to myself. Yeah.
Just that little line, wow.
So that's black liner that goes.
Yeah, it's like I think it's a multi-use like.
Yeah.
pencil,
It's like a eyeliner pencil.
Yeah.
You can use it for whatever, you know. I am also going to. Let's see. Here we go. I'm taking a tiny little brush like this, like another one with tight bristles, so it'll hold pigment. And I'm gonna take this beautiful color. This is a Morphe palette. I kind of don't like their packaging because it always gets messy right here because there's so much powder. It's just inevitable. I clean it all the time.
And break. I thought them did break like the.
Oh yeah, these things constantly break like off, which is kind of annoying. But what can you do? Look up in the ceiling for me? I'm just gonna put this under right here, very lightly.
How did you pick the shade for that?
I thought about her complexion and also that I put some rouge in her cheeks, and this color is kind of in between. So it's kind of like a maroon, or like, see how it kind of like feels warm, but it's like a brown, you know? And if we have any fallout, which happens occasionally, I can just dust it with this thing, little fan brush. And sometimes I like to bring that lower shadow and connect it with what we had created on the top. Just like that, just so we don't have any fine lines. See how I'm bringing it all the way back? And I'm going to put a tiny little highlight in the corner of her eyes, open them up. Not that they're not. And we're gonna get into some lip action now. Okay, let's use this moment over here. So lip liner is a really powerful tool, depending on how you use it. Obviously, it doesn't matter if it's perfect or not because it's going to be covered. What is important is where you put it, because basically we're making a frame that we're going to be filling in. And not only that, but we're creating depth. So if we want a powderier lip, we want to use a color that's a little bit darker than the color that we're going to be using, because it makes it seem like it's a shadow around your lip, because your lips are protruding more.
I've seen some people use liner like all the way on the lip. Is there any particular reason for not doing that or to do that?
You mean on the entire lip?
Yeah.
That's just because I like the color.
Oh, okay.
It could also be that they want it like really matte.
Yeah.
And even if you're using a matte lipstick,
Yeah.
like because it's waxed, it has a shine to it.
Okay.
So if you really wanted something like absolutely matte, you could put pencil over the entire lip. Also, for people who like, if they're going to be drinking like through a straw,
Yeah.
or like eating or something, a pencil is less likely to come off. And I normally like to, like you were saying, with the pencil, go onto the lip a little bit on the sides to simulate like that the lips are like a sphere, like I was talking about with the eyes and the cheekbones. Because there will be a lighter color down the middle, and then it's like almost like it's ombraying out like this. Beauty moment. I usually like to mix my lipsticks together, so I'm putting this sparkly one on first, and then I'll go over with a little bit more of a matte color. Give me a roll like this. So, you know, lips are really a place where you can go easily from like daytime to evening. If I wanted like an evening look, I could do like a red or something like more vibrant. This is like a little bit lighter, but it has like a little bit of a pink in it, which is like kind of cute. It's like not too drama. I can't help myself. Yeah, it's just looking cute. She'll do. We do a little bit more of this stuff.
So good.
There we go. That tucks into the cheeks better too. Ooh-wee! Let me take these lips out. How are we feeling about this lip?
Literally
And-
Snow White.
What? Yes, for real. I'm gonna spray you down. Close on this. Boom, bam, boom. So
Wow.
this is kind of, it's not a matte lip, it's like a little shiny, but I didn't put any gloss on. If I want to put some gloss on, we can do that. I want to show you right now, just so you can get an idea of the difference.
We use the Makeup Forever setting spray.
That one, I think it is, yeah, it's Makeup Forever. Miss and Fix. Ooh, she is glossed up. You see that?
Yeah, I love blonde.
Yeah, the gloss is so
I'm here about the interview. I'd like to inquire about the position.
I know, somehow, magically, you look more grown up but not older at all. It's
Yeah.
like, it's a hard thing to do.
So you have to look at it. I can't
She's transformed.
You look like porcelain, honey.
That I like.
We're gonna do some photos of it.
Yeah. And the little gold in the tear duct is so.
Yeah, how do you feel?
Glamorous.
I just realized I've been doing everything
Red
wrong with my
carpet.
makeup.
Me
You just realized what?
I've done everything wrong with my makeup like, for a very long time.
About whatever works for you, you know?
Yeah,
It's
no,
just about
it's just
efficiency.
simple things. Yeah.
Because I'm kind of going like
For the
We should do
for the
something
lid,
like
are you making
moving,
it?
like portraits.
That's so pretty.
That's really good. Yeah.
I'm
so jealous.
Maybe just
Like, I'm